what is joy? It's our pure and simple delight in being alive. It's the lift of spirits we feel when we become aware of abundance or goodness. It's the aliveness we feel when we notice something beautiful like a baby's smile or the flash of a red bird at the feeder. Joy is a heart-opening kind of feeling. I say it's so close to awe and wonder that they must surely be cousins, or maybe nieces and nephews. Buddhism teaches us that joy is one of the 7 factors of enlightenment. The poet Mary Oliver speaks of joy in her poem called Mindful. She says, "Every day I see or hear something that more or less kills me with delight, that leaves me like a needle in the haystack of light. It was what I was born for, to look, to listen, to lose myself inside this soft world, to instruct myself over and over in joy and acclamation. Nor am I talking about the exceptional, the fearful, the dreadful, the very extravagant, but of the ordinary, the common, the very drab, the daily presentations. Oh, good scholar, I say to myself, how can you help but grow wise with such teachings as these? The untrimmable light of the world, the oceans shine, the prayers that are made out of grass. Joy. Is it something that just happens like a bolt out of the blue? Or could it be something we practice and consciously work to have more of in our lives? The experts agree with Mary Oliver that we're born for joy. The work of prominent social psychologist and happiness researcher Sonia Lyubomirsky, how's that for a name? Sonia Lyubomirsky's work has shown that while most of us believe that changes in our life circumstances, like changes in wealth, health, and physical appearance, will give us more joy, in reality, our circumstances count for only 10% of our happiness in life. Lyubomirsky found that fully 40% of happiness has to do with things we can freely choose to do. And this dovetails with the findings of leadership trainers Rick Foster and Greg Hicks, who interviewed joyful people across our nation and found that the happiest of them consistently made certain choices in their lives. In other words, my friends, joy can be practiced and increased, but we have to be willing to do the work. Sonia Lyubomirsky helps us with this. She's identified a number of strategies, but before we talk about those, I kind of think we owe it to ourselves to ask if we really ought to focus on our personal joy and happiness in times like the ones we're living through. I mean, given the strife and struggle that are happening in our world today, isn't our individual joy kind of small? A small concern, maybe even a little self-indulgent? Eric Wilson, who's a professor at Wake Forest University, wrote a book some years ago called Against Happiness. He says that we Americans are overly obsessed with happiness and joy. He argues that what actually causes us to thrive is melancholy. That melancholy is the muse not only of great literature, music, and art, but it's also the engine of innovation in all areas of human living. He writes, I am afraid that our American culture's overemphasis on happiness might be dangerous, a wanton forgetting of an essential part of a full life. His book asserts that suffering, depression, and struggle are important, that we must not endeavor to turn away from our difficulties. Guess what? The joy researchers agree with him. Joy is not the product of denying the hurts in life. Instead, it comes when we pay mindful attention to all of life. And as for that question of whether focusing on joy is self-indulgent in times like ours, I like what Unitarian Universalist activist and scholar Sharon Welch says. She writes, "The wellspring of moral action is not a declaration that the world could and should be otherwise. It is a deep affirmation of the joy, richness, and blessing that the world is. The ground of challenging exploitation, injustice, and oppression is not a vision of the world will be after the revolution. It is the heartfelt desire to honor the wonder of what is." In times like ours, my friends, we access joy through what is, and its energy helps us follow the highest urgings of our hearts toward community and caring. So, how do we practice joy? Let's play a game, right? What's more joyful than games? I call it Sonia Says. Can you say that with me? Sonia says. I call it that because, Sonia Lubomirsky, we could say Lubomirsky says, but Sonia Says is more fun. This game calls forward her 4 main strategies for cultivating joy. First of all, Sonia says we need to incline our minds towards joy. One way to do this is by beginning each day with a conscious intention about it. For example, we might wake up, open our eyes, and ask ourselves, what one thing can I do today, even a small thing, to increase my joy? Buddhist teacher James Baraz follows on this by suggesting we look around us right this very moment for something to appreciate, even something ordinary. So here's an example from Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh. He wrote, "Last week, I had a toothache. Today, no toothache. How wonderful." This is a really simple but effective strategy. When we take a pause and notice what we usually take for granted, we make room for joy. I learned a lot about inclining my mind toward joy from a woman named Ruth, who was a member of the congregation I served in Brookfield, UU Church West. Ruth's husband, Bob, was in intensive care on a ventilator and dialysis for nearly a month after he had surgery for advanced colon cancer. So Ruth and Bob and their adult children knew that Bob's odds for long-term survival were pretty slim. And I wondered what it would be like when I went to visit them in the ICU. To my surprise, the visit was joyful. There was so much love in that hospital room, it overflowed into the hallway. Ruth's steady presence was as warm as a sunrise. Everyone wanted to be near her to bask in that glow. She was tuned in to every tiny change in Bob's condition, not with desperate hope, but with a bell-like clarity that invited everyone around them to bring their love front and center, appreciating the good changes, fully acknowledging the bad changes, finding joy in simply being with Bob right now. Ruth inclined her mind toward joy, even in circumstances that we might think would be terrible. When I think of Ruth now, I remember that joy comes when we simply feel what we're feeling and let it move through us. Joy comes when we allow ourselves, even in the midst of grief, to also notice the moments when our sadness eases even a little. Remembering that change is the nature of the universe, we stay present to what's happening, and space for joy is created. So let's go back to Sonia Says. Say it with me. Sonia says that the second strategy for welcoming more joy into our lives is to pause and to savor happy experiences in the moment. But another piece of this strategy is that we can remember and re-experience those moments, savor them in our imagination. Because neuroscience shows that the brain responds to what we imagine almost as powerfully as it does to what we're experiencing. So let's try this one. Close your eyes or let your gaze go fuzzy for a minute and recall a joyful experience. Doesn't have to be a big thing. Maybe it was a great conversation with someone, or a quiet moment looking at something beautiful in the natural world, or even something simple like the cool sweetness of a spoonful of ice cream. Bring it into your mind. Feel the delight, the joy. Let your lips curve into a smile. Let that feeling spread through your body. Doesn't that feel good? And it's good for you too. You're building neural pathways that will help joy come to you more readily. So, Sonia, back to Sonia, her third strategy probably won't surprise anybody in this room. It's gratitude. We know this, right? Gratitude journal keeping is very popular. But there's a catch. If we're feeling down or if we're depressed, making a list of what we're grateful for can actually backfire. It can either veer toward toxic positivity or make us feel guilty for feeling low when our list shows we've got everything going for us. Fortunately, there's a workaround if gratitude isn't working for you. It has to do with self-appreciation. It goes something like this. Rather than saying, I am grateful for, and writing something down, we say, I appreciate myself for, as in, I appreciate myself for making a good breakfast this morning, even though I really didn't want to bother. Or say to yourself, self, I appreciate how hard you are trying to do all those difficult things in your life right now. By acknowledging all of our feelings, that's how we make room for joy. And finally, one last strategy. Can you say it with me? Sonia says, my research shows that practicing kindness boosts our joy. She says, being kind to others, whether friends or strangers, makes you feel compassionate and capable. So let me tell you a little story about this. One morning, back in the days when most of us didn't have smartphones yet, I was in a rush. I arrived at church just a few minutes before I was supposed to be in a meeting. But when I got out of my car, I saw that there was a car parked in the fire lane right in front of the church, and there was a man in that car waving at me frantically. So I walked over. I'm the minister. I have to walk over and investigate. I said, hello, and quickly realized that though this man understood me, his spoken English wasn't very good. He was an older guy, and he was on his way to a doctor's appointment. But due to confusing street names, he couldn't figure out where the doctor's appointment was, where the office was. And he had it on a piece of paper, and he showed it to me. And I did what Sonia said. I was kind and helpful. And I explained to him how he would get there. But he was still confused, and he was getting agitated, more agitated every minute what to do. I stopped explaining, and I asked myself, what's the kindest thing I could do right now? So here's what happened. I said, hey, why don't I get back in my car and you can follow me to your doctor's office? When he heard this gentleman smiled the most beautiful, bright smile I think I've ever seen. So we got into our cars, and he followed me to his doctor's office, and we got him there right on time. Now, I wasn't on time. I was late for my meeting, but the joy of that man's smile stayed with me all day. And thinking about it even now, telling you this story, I feel the joy of his smile all over again. So these 4 strategies, inclining the mind towards joy, savoring our experiences of joy in the moment and remembering those experiences, practicing gratitude and self-appreciation, and being kind. These are 4 choices, 4 actions we can take every day to increase the chances that joy will come into our lives. Why do it? I love what Carl Scoville said in our first reading, that at the heart of all creation lies that purposeful goodness, and that our work on earth is to explore and enjoy and share this goodness, to know it without reserve or hesitation. He says, neither duty nor suffering nor progress nor conflict, not even survival, is the aim of life. Joy is deep, abiding, uncompromised joy. Practicing joy. We do it not for wealth or health, not just to generate energy for our work for justice, not just to feel better or be happier, though certainly if we practice joy, those things may happen. Our purpose in practicing joy, even in times like ours when so much is uncertain, our purpose is to unfold the heart of creation within ourselves, within our community. Or as the poet said, this is what we're born for, to look, to listen, to lose ourselves inside this soft world with its untrimmable light, its prayers made out of grass, and the teachings of the very ordinary that instruct us over and over, that instruct us in joy. Shalom, blessed be, Ashe, and Amen. In the river, the water continually flows on, yet the river is ever there. Our lives flow on in endless song, yet life and joy shall never end. Our words for benediction come from another poet, Rosemary Watola Tramer. She writes, joy needs such a meager door, such a small door through which to enter and reveal itself. A door I can't imagine with a handle I can't find except by loving the world and the people in it. I would have thought loving makes the heart more full, and it does, but it makes the heart more spacious too, a place where anything could happen. May we go forth this day and practice joy.